So, I just wanted to comment on something that you said. When you go through the techniques and they say, I still want to think about it, closing and helping people see their way through their challenges to have good water is a process. It's not a magical, hey, I want to think about it. Okay, well, geez, I hope one day you get good water. If you did, what would you love about it? It's an ongoing process that you have to have complete faith in to build enough desire to create a buyer. During that process, if you say something and revert back to your normal sales techniques of attempting to overcome an objection, you literally can circumvent the process from working. Where this falls short is most salespeople panic and they start becoming salespeople again. And until you actually witness the process of the desire building, you just never believe it. So it's similar to boiling water. You got to have faith. If you had never boiled water before and you put ice cold water on a pan on a stovetop and you sat there and you didn't have a thermometer in the water to measure the change in the water, as the water got hotter for the first, say it went from 34 degrees, just barely above freezing, to 88 degrees, without the presence of a thermometer, how would you know, and sticking your finger in it, how would you know if the water was getting any warmer?
Okay, it wouldn't.
And that's oftentimes what happens in the selling process. If you're not conscious of little telltale signs, you give up and you circumvent the process. What happens if you leave the heat on long enough and you have faith? The water, it transforms into boiling water. And even more maybe illustrative of this is what happens if you put water in a freezer. And you put 100-degree water in a freezer. What happens? Well, eventually the water will transform from a liquid into a solid.
Yeah.
But if you had never seen ice before, imagine you had never seen ice before. Imagine you grew up in Africa in the middle of a jungle and you had never seen ice before. I don't think it'd be possible to convince somebody that water would turn to a solid.
Sure.
And that's the challenge I have in training these selling techniques, is you guys don't believe that a non-buyer, I want to think about it buyer will just suddenly, when the temperature gets to the correct degree, will either become solid or boiling over. I guess at that point you're creating a gas. You're creating steam.
Yep.
And so you just have to stay with the system, knowing that the ultimate goal is to bring the people to a different state. You want to take somebody that is in a I want to think about it state, and you want to turn the heat up enough that they boil over.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make any sense?
Absolutely.
Does that help understand the process a little bit?
Does it? Yeah.
Can I interject on this area a little bit?
Absolutely.
Basically, it's like teaching a child how to walk. So you're a new person who comes in here, you don't know how to walk yet. So, but eventually, if you teach them properly and they learn how to walk, eventually, walking is an automatic sensation. You don't have to think about it; you just do it. Well, that's where we should become as part of when we're doing this work, so that the technique of doing it is there, all we have to do is provide all the emotion of the body language. So we can focus on doing what we need to do, not the technique. Technique should be automatic.
So what we call that in training is becoming unconsciously competent
Exactly.
at something.
Right.
Like we're all unconsciously competent at walking.
Yeah.
Exactly. Same thing. So we should be
And
able to do it.
so where you guys are is you are consciously or unconsciously incompetent in a lot of ways. And you are that way because you've been trained a certain way. So now I'm trying to get you to walk in a different way altogether, and it's very difficult. Once you understand this technique and you apply the core principles of my training to your selling, you'll become unconsciously competent, and you'll always know the right thing to say. The number one thing is, he who controls the sale gets the sale. And when you look back where you missed something, it inevitably will boil down and pinpoint to a situation where somewhere in the home you lost control. I do these calls all the time, and we do role playing, and I can always pinpoint where the sale was, at least from my perspective, where the control was lost based on the rendition I get from the salesperson.
Right.
He who controls the sale loses the sale. Where is the sale typically lost? Well, when somebody says, I want to think about it, and you don't recognize that as simply a buying statement, and you continue down the path to boil the water, you remove the pan from the water, you put it on a burner that isn't even turned on, and then you start watching the water from there, and you wonder why the water never gets hot. You have to keep the heat up. Answering objections, because objections don't end in question marks, they're not questions. Anytime you answer or overcome or attempt to overcome an objection, you've lost control of the sale because you're no longer on the burner. You've removed the pan from the burner. It's never going to boil.
So here we go.
Well, and then time, of course, is your biggest competitor. Time, if I had unlimited time to train you guys, we could probably all get this down and you'd all close 90%. So time's your biggest competitor. And it's easier for me to do this to people that have never sold anything in their entire life. I'd rather train somebody with zero sales experience than somebody that's already been trained with the cliche sales lines, because now I'm 6 feet buried under the soil and I got to dig my way up to the top. I got to convince you to change, and then you got to actually have the courage to implement. And then there's the whole belief ability. You have to believe it works, because it does work. And if you talk to all the top reps, they all sell about the same way.
Agreed.
They don't train the way they sell, but anybody that's had extreme success in the home has their own techniques, their own words, their own versions and everything, but the core principles of what I'm talking about, they continually build desire. And some of them are just so charismatic they can get away with saying anything just because they have great voice tonality and they smile and they get away with saying stuff. And just never forget that the script is only 7% of what you say. It's how you say it and what you look like when you say it. So giving you scripts and word tracks, it's not effective normally because I can't hear how you're saying it, and I don't see the look on your face, and I don't see if the oh crap sign went on your face when they said, I want to think about it. So it's hard to isolate and go, okay, well, they said I wanted to think about it. I said exactly what you said, and then they still said they wanted to think about it, and then I didn't know what to do, so I either left the house or I reverted back to being a salesperson.
Correct.
Does any of that help anybody? Does anybody have an epiphany from that they could possibly apply and make a difference?
Well, I think I agree with what you're saying is we have our preset ways of listening to people and maybe reacting in a negative way. And what I hear from you is that if they were trained without the prejudice of when a person says, I want to think about it, means no, or they start to shake, or they take it as a negative. It has to be retrained. And that's why I like these calls, is because I think that the more you do these calls, unconsciously, it sort of resonates in them without them even realizing it. Like Jerry this month has 5 install deals this month, and last month he was suffering more, so he may not realize it, but unconsciously it could be resonating what you're talking about. Oh, absolutely.
Oh, no doubt.
No doubt.
Little things.
Yeah. So yes, it does resonate with us.
Well, good, because it's hard to see. I can't see your faces. I can't see your body language. So I need, I try every day. I go, how can I be more effective? I have the secret sauce. I have the solution to 90% closing. It's just you have to trust the process. And I personally did it. And I've sold hundreds of these in-home by myself, personally. Well, I'm sure over 1,000.
The way I measure numbers. Like I mentioned to you, last month we had 92 installs. This month we're on the way to do 100. So,
110 this month.
So.
Yeah, so that's awesome. So back to the process, because you said something critical, and that is the biggest thing you got to get people to do, and this is in every industry. And you can go to a room full of 10,000 salespeople that are selling 100 different products, and you could ask them this question. Out of all the objections you hear, which objection do you hate the very most? And the vast majority of them would say, I want to think about it.
Yeah.
And that's just so sad, because we then as a sales industry, we are so taught to attack I want to think about it that it's obnoxious, it's ineffective, it's counterintuitive to an intelligent path of persuasion. When somebody says I want to think about it and the oh crap sign goes off on your forehead, you're dead in the water to start with. But as long as you associate the I want to think about it as, I'm screwed, and the oh crap sign goes on your forehead, you're going to always be challenged by what should be the greatest statement anybody can ever make, particularly after seeing something they had no interest in. You go out to somebody's house that most of the time, I don't know where you're getting your leads from, but they're not like, oh, I called you out because the water sucks. And I understand. What?
Our leads come from Home Depot.
Okay, so you're in Home Depot. Think about the process. I'm in Home Depot. Hey, have you had your water tested? No. Well, we're offering free water test. Okay. Well, what's a water test?
Mm-hmm.
Is it 50 multiple choice questions? So they don't even know what you're coming out for. Maybe are you giving them a Home Depot gift card?
We are.
So a lot of the people you're seeing are gift bandits, right?
Yeah.
They're only looking for the card.
So they're in it for the card, which is fine. I could care less how I get into somebody's home.
Me neither.
But so now they tell you when you walk in the door, I'll look at your thing. The only thing I'm interested in, I have no interest whatsoever in what do? You sell water systems? I think our water's fine. I have zero interest in buying anything. I really just want my $25 gift card.
Yep.
Who likes to hear that?
No one.
You know what?
I do. I love hearing that.
Well, that's a good sign.
Okay.
You know why I love hearing that?
Why?
These people are scared to death they're going to buy something.
Yeah.
No, honestly, they're scared to death they're going to buy something. They also like free stuff, so they're going to love the free soap.
True.
I'm not being funny. I'm being dead ass honest with you.
Quite true.
So how do you How do you respond to that? Who hates hearing that? Certainly you've heard that before. Maybe not quite as in your face, but obviously you knew they were there for the free gift card, right?
I've heard that. It works for me.
Have you heard that, Zip? Just for the free card? And you? Have you heard
How many
it?
times have you told them?
No, but I know.
So what do you say when you hear that?
Hey, fine, so, I'm just here to do a water test, thank you very much, let's get the water test and you can get your free card. I don't think it's a big deal.
How do you feel when you hear that?
Like I said, to me, that's a sign of, hey, this guy's gonna buy it.
Great.
I think that's
So I will tell you what my favorite line for that is, which is my favorite line for just about everything, because I think it's all how you react. So if somebody says that to me, my response is, oh, fantastic. That'll save everybody a lot of time and trouble. So glad to hear you say that. I get paid just for showing this to you. You win, you get a free gift card, and I'll make you a couple promises. I promise not to sell you anything if you promise not to buy anything. And better yet, I won't even give you a price unless you beg me to hear about it. How's that?
There you go.
And I'm going to go super fast, and we're both going to love this. So thank you. It takes a lot of pressure off of me. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I call that jujitsu closing. I take their negative energy and I use it against them.
Yeah. Agreed.
But a lot of that is just having mental toughness and also then realizing that most of the time you hear that, you're going to make a sale. But I also realize every time I walk in the door, I'm going to make a sale. So nothing matters to me. And I will tell you something that if you can develop this trait, when you have no association with the outcome, when you have no concern about the outcome, you're always going to win. In other words, the guy that cares the most usually loses in a negotiation. So if you're more concerned about making the sale, you're more concerned about making your commission than they are about having good water, you're going to lose. And that's a really deep thought for you. Don't be concerned about the outcome. When you leave that house, the amount of money you would have made in commission isn't going to change your life most of the time. And their quality of the water that they have to suffer through isn't going to change your life. It will change their life. It'll improve their life so drastically that they have no idea. So a lot of what I'm talking to you about today is just a mental mindset of being the guy that has the effect on somebody and not the guy that's affected by somebody. To the degree that you affect your circumstances and the people around you in life is how much money you'll ultimately make in life. Your job is to affect people and not to be affected by them. So when you walk in the door and they go, I'm never buying one of these, okay, great. God, am I glad to hear you say that. I am so sick of writing up contracts today I could puke. I've got 5 of these I got to deal with. I've written up 5, and then I got to follow up on the install. Somebody over down in Elk Grove Village or wherever Rainsoft is now is going to have to manufacture these, and we got to worry about getting gas in the trucks. Jeez, thank you. Let me just get through this, get your card, and I can go home. Everybody's buying these. We're so busy. You're the first person that said that to me in about 6 months. Thank you. It's the same thing I train telemarketers to do. When they call up and somebody says, what do you think they hate the most? What do you think a telemarketer hates hearing more than anything in the world? I'm not interested. I'm not interested. And most telemarketers are trained, if the people don't hang up immediately, well, geez, what is it you're not interested in? Anything you're saying. I revolutionized the telemarketing department I consulted with in Australia by teaching them one simple thing. And it went on and built a huge company, and they were so successful in telemarketing because every telemarketer got trained this way. When they heard I'm not interested, you know what they said?
What? You're not interested in?
Oh. No, that'd be the worst thing they could say. You know what you say when somebody says I'm not interested?
What?
Oh my gosh, that's great. I've been calling for 45 minutes looking for someone just like you. This is great. Let me tell my supervisor, hey, Jan, I've got one that's not interested. Hey, that is freaking awesome. Thank you. You're the kind of person that lets me keep my job, because if everybody was interested, people would be calling here and I wouldn't have a job. So thank you for that. Let me tell you about the most exciting thing you're ever going to hear on a phone call.
The trap.
Two things happen. People still hang up the phone, but half the people laugh and go, okay. Because it breaks that and makes you a human being, and that's what you have to be in the home. You have to be a human being. You have to break through. I'm a salesman and you're a buyer. I'm a salesman and you're a buyer.
Right.
So you had a question before I went off on this tangent, so hopefully this was a good 15 minutes. But if somebody has a question, go ahead and ask.
Was there a question, guys? I think you answered the question.
Yeah, I think you answered. Harry, this whole thing about training too that you're talking about, we get so obsessed about training people and training them right that they get very proficient at doing the demo, but they forget that the customer never heard the demo before. So they start taking for granted that the customer knows what they're talking about. So they don't give enough feeling and enough body language. They don't put enough into the words, like enough emotion. Because they're just taking it for granted. The customer knows.
So what's the question?
Well, no, just making a statement, John.
Statement.
So how do you avoid people from doing that? You know, like getting to the point where, you know, hey, you know, I'm walking too proficiently now. You know, now I've got to figure out how to back it down a little bit.
Well, I think that's an excellent statement. I couldn't agree more with you, and I think it's one of the greatest problems everybody in every sales, including myself, have, is we call it industry speak. And I have salespeople come in here all the time. I just had a guy from a new phone company trying to pitch me, and he's using all these acronyms. I didn't even know what he was talking about. Now, I'm the kind of guy that's going to call him out on that, but a lot of people just sit and nod and go, okay, well, we'll think about it. But I don't even understand what he's saying.
I've got the biggest idea what he said.
And so I'm you know, I have no boundaries and I have no shame, and I'm just going to call them out and go, I don't even understand what you're talking about. But your customers rarely do it. If they do, then it's easy to sell them. But I guarantee you, if you think about the fact that it takes probably 4 weeks to become proficient in the RainSoft demo, maybe longer, and then you start doing things and you don't even know what they're talking about. I had a guy on a call this week. And the question was, well, we saw Culligan. And I said, okay, so what's the difference between your system and Culligan? And then he's literally, oh no, I'm sorry, it was Home Depot. We saw a system at Home Depot for $2,000. Why is yours $7,000? And he starts going off and he's saying, well, the backwash unit that we have, the backwash unit. And I'm like, dude, I've been doing this since 1983, and I have no idea what you're talking about. What the freak is a backwash unit? I literally, in my mind, thought that this company had developed some kind of standalone unit that backwashed the water system. And he was using that type of, which he invented himself. There is no such thing as the backwash unit. And he was literally talking about the backwash cycle and how it cycled differently than a cheaper water softener, right? But that's what we get caught up in. So when you're talking to the consumer and you're doing your demo, it all goes back to, you know, going through, like, why do we tell the hydrological cycle? What does that mean? What's the purpose of that? Look for the why behind everything we say, and then look in the customer's eyes and see if they understand the why. It's not the what, it's the why.
Why?
why does it feel like the soap is still on my skin? Well, it's the stuff in the water and blah, 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 blah. Well, if I don't understand the why, I don't care what you're saying. And the easiest way to solve that is, look, I felt the same way. Everybody thinks that the soap is still on their skin, but here's the simple test. If you get out of the shower and you smell like Dial, what do you think that means?
Soap's still there.
Dial is still on your skin. And with good water, the reason I washed your hands, if I wash your hands and I ask you to smell your hands, even though it feels like the soap's on there and you smell no soap, what do you think that means? It's exactly opposite of what people think, but the only proof is if you smell like soap, the soap is still on your hands. If your clothes smell like Downy or Tide, do you know why? Because there are some residual of the Tide and Downy. Maybe it's just the fragrance that's still in the skin. But when I put your washcloth in water and it wrings out, the reason why is because the good water dissolved the remaining soap because there was still soap in your clothes. If I open your dishwasher and and the owner's manual tells you to add Cascade to the level of hardness, it means Cascade's a water softener. If your water is 0 softener, you only have to add a tiny bit, and if it's 10 grains hard, you got to add up the cup. Then it correlates the fact that Cascade is predominantly a water softener. And you're going to keep doing that for the rest of your life. So when you understand the why is the water dirty? Because when it starts up in the sky, it's super clean, and water is designed to dissolve everything it comes into contact with. The city takes out the big stuff, the cats, the dogs, the logs, and the rocks. They dump chlorine in it. Why? Because it bleaches the water and it makes you think it's clear. I just showed you through this test. Why do we do this test? Because I want you to see that the water is not always as clear as you might think. It's kind of like the air. If I turn on a headlight or the sun shines through the window, your suddenly clear air has a ton of particulate matter floating around in it. If I put a black light on a bedspread in a hotel, you would never lay on it. All I'm trying to do is illuminate what's going on in your water. It's not magic. It's not a secret. And then if you clearly understood the fact that you're going to the store for the rest of your life and you're purchasing cleaning products that are designed to overcome hard water, and we have good water and we have good soap and we get it factory direct, and it really doesn't matter what the soap does because the water does all the work. You put the soap in and you get clean clothes, you're not going to care. So if I can give you better water at a better price than you're going to spend now for the rest of your life, and ultimately you know you're going to save a bunch of money and have way more benefits, and then you can see why everybody gets a rain soft.